Now let's talk about cloner. Now if you guys know, we have seen array object, it's basically creating clones of that. Similarly, cloner also do the same work, but in cloner you will get more options to create clone. For example, let's select this cube and let's bring our cloner over here. Now from name itself you will understand that it will create clone, but how, that is very interesting. Now let's select this cube and move inside this cloner. As you guys can see, we will get this kind of clones. So let's see about the properties. Now like in mode right now, as you guys can see, it's linear, and if you click on it, as you guys can see, we are getting 5 type of options. Now after that, it's create clone, like iterate, random, blend, etc. Then you will can get this count and offset. Like you can do offset like from wherever you want to start, and you can count the number of clones. Now if you see the position over here on y-axis, if it's 50, now let's make it 0, let's say. And suppose if I select this, and if on x-axis I can increase the distance of it. So now by increasing this, as you guys can see, I can create this kind of clones on x-axis the way I want. Now because it's linear, because from name itself, it will create the clones only on one particular path, because the distance is 250 centimeters on x-axis. If I do that on y-axis, let's say, then it will create over here. If I do that on x-axis, it will do that over here. And suppose if I add rotation on this, let's say on, because this is on z-axis, let's do rotation on this. As you guys can see, it will rotate like this. If I do rotation on x and y axis, you will get this kind of results. Okay, so that's the use of cloner. Basically purpose is to create clones. We will see this thing in more detail whenever we are going to move towards the motion graphic stuff, because this effect, I'm not effect but instance object, is very useful when in our motion graphic field, because this allows us to create some interesting animations in Cinema 4D. Now because we are using linear, it will give you options to create clones only on one direction. But if you go over here, you will get, after linear you will get radial. This is like array object only. As you guys can see, it's the options are also similar to array object. If you see, the plane is x and y, which means on x and on y axis, not on z axis. You can change the plane according to your needs, like z and y. If you want, then choose x and z. Then you can increase the radius of it, you can increase the count of it also, like that. You can change the start angle like this, and you can change the end angle. You can do offset, you can do offset variation also. Okay, so these are some use of radius. Then you will get this grid array, which is quite useful, because it's create one kind of Rubik's cube thing. Now you can increase the count and distance on x, y and z axis. Like on x axis, let's make it 400. On y axis, let's make it 400. On z axis, let's make it 400. So as you guys can see, we will get this kind of cube. And if you want, then you can increase the distance on each particular axis like this, and if you want, then you can increase the count also like this. Let's go inside this cloner and let's do one thing. We will decrease the size of it like this. So as you guys can see, we will get this kind of object. Let's go to the cloner and let's increase it like this, and like this. As you guys can see, we will get this kind of structure, but this is also gonna make your file heavy, so be careful about it. Okay, so after the cloner, there is another option known as honeycomb array, which will give you something like this. If you can choose offset, also you can choose count width, etc, etc, like this. Okay, so and then if you see at the start, you will get this option known as object. So what is that? Let's see. If I click on this object, and let's do one thing, we will create one object like cube, and we will the size is already is increased. And now we will tell, with the help of this object mode, what is going to happen, that we will say tell Cinema 4D that I want to create clones on this cube. So let's select this cloner on this object. I'll bring my this cube over here. So as you guys can see, this cloner is creating objects on this one. But if you see, the objects are quite random, because if you see the distribution area, it's on surface. If I choose vertices, it will create this clones on vertices. If I choose edges, it will create objects on its edges. You can change the offset value also if you want. Then if you want, then you can create on volume also. Basically it will create volume. For example, if I select this and by holding alt, I'm going to hide this. As you guys can see, inside this cube they are creating clones, and you can increase the numbers also, like this. Because now let's do one thing. Let's clear this object. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one line with like this and this, and I want to create that. I'll hit escape, and I want this clone should be on this line. So I, in object menu, I'll bring this line over here like this. Then as you guys can see, the distribution, because this is line, they are not going to tell us like surface and idiotic options. It will tell you the count, how count you want. Like if you want to increase the count, all you need to do, simply increase the count over here. Then it will tell you the distribution amount, like step. If you want, you can do that like this. If you increase distance, you will get different results. Then even distribution, basically the distance between them are going to be even. Then you can play around with this offset variation, start and end value. You know how this things works, because right now there are so many deformers that are allowed to do this kind of options like start and then offset. So yep, that's the basic use of cloner. We will see this thing in detail whenever we are going to start modeling in Cinema 4D.